Thank you very much, Patricia. I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, on 1st February 1979, an Air France Boeing 747 landed in Tehran. An old man in a black turban walked down the gangway. Ayatollah Khomeini had just spent 4 months in Nofle-le-Château, sheltered by the France of the President Valéry Giscard d'Estaing, free to prepare his revolution, free to distribute his propaganda cassettes, free to receive supporters and journalists from around the world. France, the cradle of the Enlightenment, had harbored the man who would go on to found the first Shiite theocracy in history. That day, a parenthesis opened. Not the founding act of Islamism, the theocratic project had already been formalized in 1928 by the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. What opened was the parenthesis of its globalized spread. For the first time, a theocratic regime succeeded in seizing a modern state. This precedent galvanized the entire Islamist movement and offered it a horizon. And this parenthesis, we failed to read it, we failed to name it, we failed to fight it for decades. Yet, it opened at the very same time in Europe, and this one shows, unfortunately, no sign of closing, not at least without our action. Beyond the Shiite-Sunni divide, the Muslim Brotherhood influenced the mullahs regime. Khomeini drew on the thought of Said Qutb, the Brotherhood's chief ideologue of his time, through an Iranian intermediary, Nafab Savavi, the Fedayeen Islam, who had met Qutb in Egypt in 1954. Ali Khamenei himself translated Qutb in Persian and acknowledged having received from Safavi the first sparks of the Islamic Revolution. The Velayat al-Faqih, the pillar of the Iranian constitution, directly reflects the Brotherhood's doctrine. The Brotherhood arrived in Europe and in the United States half a century ago, first on university campuses. It's important. Among them, the Iranians returned home to support the Ayatollah, but the others set about making their presence in a land of unbelievers religiously licit, halal. And they did it not by turning first-generation migrants into good Muslims, but by turning their Western-born children into the new ambassadors of Islam in the world. No violence, no revolution, but a different method, passionate Islamization, a method of subversion that turns the strengths of democratic societies against themselves. In Europe, in France, as in Belgium and other countries, we keep making the same mistake, assuming that what is not physically violent is not dangerous. It is precisely this confusion that legalist Islamism has exploited with remarkable strategic intelligence. The brotherist, as I call it, networks, do not need to provoke violence to instill the fear, to instill the terror. Their weapons are guilt and the methodical infiltration of institutions, cultural associations, sports federations, parent-teacher councils, student unions, interfaith dialogue, and not least the official representative bodies of the Muslim faith. The Brotherist project is a theocratic project, not in a spectacular sense of the Iranian theocracy with its ayatollahs and its revolutionary guards, but in the sense of a systematic enterprise aimed at subjecting social, legal, and political life to an Islamic normativity. It is what I call the society Sharia compatible, to change it, not to impose by the force, but changing progressively society to make it Sharia compatible. It is jihad through the law, it is jihad through the market, it is jihad through institutions, a jihad that sheds no blood but erodes year after year the foundations of our free societies. In recent years, a shift has taken place. Knowledge about Islamism, its true nature, its project, its networks, its method, its strategies of infiltration has finally been taken seriously. Rigorous research, sometimes carried out at the cost of threats and smear campaigns against its authors, has made it possible to document, to map, to name what had long remained in the blind spot of public debate. Parliaments have taken up the issue. Inquiry commissions have been established in France and in the United States. Legislation has been adopted. Suspect funding flows have begun to be tracked. And above all, an intellectual and political consensus has begun to emerge. Islamism, in all its dimensions, legalist as well as violent, Sunni as well as Shiite, poses an existential threat to our democracies, and not only because it is passionately anti-Semitic. But we still have an insufficient understanding of the Brotherhood program of control, which has spread through Europe and is now exporting its successful experiments to the United States and to the entire American continent. Al-Qaradawi, the Brotherhood's spiritual guide, theorized a jurisprudence of minorities designed to turn young Muslims born in Western societies into ambassadors of their theocratic project. Fully aware of the fact that their project is unacceptable in a democratic society, the Brotherist forged what I call the Brotherist is not just a member of the Muslim Brotherhood. It includes also the people who are carrying this ideology. Fully aware that their project is unacceptable in a democratic society, the Brotherist forged an opportunistic and temporary alliance with the revolutionary movements of the radical left and the deconstructionists of wokeism, drawn into a suicidal empathy in order to organize its progressive self-destruction. And we let it happen. But not only. The EU is probably the third largest source of resources of these Brotherhood networks in Europe, after Qatar and Turkey, if one considers both financial resources and legitimacy. Dr. Tommaso Virgili will return to this point. In France, a survey of November 2025 produced striking findings. The proportion of Muslims in the French adult population rose from 0.5 in 1985 to 7 to 10% in 2025, with great differences and discrepancy in the territory. What is alarming is the dynamic of re-Islamization that accompanies it. 38% of French Muslims approve all or part of Islamist positions. Among young people, 42% express sympathy for Islamism, and 59% would like Sharia law applied, including in non-Muslim countries. The wearing of the headscarf among young women has surged from 16% to 45%. In Belgium, the situation may be even more alarming. This country has proportionally the highest number of jihadi departures in Europe. In Brussels, 23.6% of the population is Muslim, with peaks of nearly 40 to 50% in certain municipalities, such as Saint-Jean, Molenbeek, Schaerbeek. These are the figures. They tell us one simple thing. This is only the first round. The collapse of the Iranian regime removes one of Islamism's state sponsors, one of its inspirers, one of its models. But the ideology is already here, rooted, diffuse, active, as I said, for half a century. What we have been observing in very recent years is a strategic mutation of Islamism. When I say recent years, it's probably 5 to 10 years. It no longer confines itself to infiltrating institutions from below. It conquers position from above by exploiting the very mechanisms of representative democracy. Brotherism developed in 2 stages. First, the old guard brothers built a network of mosques all over the territory in all Europe and declared themselves the voice of Europe's Muslims. Then a new generation took over, younger, severe, wrapping itself in a language of inclusion and anti-racism to win funding from Brussels and the European institutions with a leverage effect. In France, a report of the parliament has documented the links between the radical left and Islamism. Yet no party dares to say it, and we fully expect the next municipal elections to produce candidate lists with brotherist elements embedded in them. So what can we do? First, maintain and intensify academic research. Knowledge is our primary weapon. It is because we finally took the work on Islamism seriously, because we finally understood its theocratic project in all its dimensions, that we were able to face squarely the danger posed by a nuclear Iran and its cult of death, by Hamas and its barbarism, and to find the will to stop them. This knowledge must not cease. It must deepen, broaden, and adapt to the new forms that Islamism is taking. There are a lot of excellent studies in many languages. We need to translate them and exchange them. We need to ensure protection to the researcher and journalists. Second, we need to track down funding networks. The European Union, through its grant programs, has channeled millions of euros to organizations linked to the Muslim Brotherhood. This must stop. Every euro of public funding must be conditional on respect for democratic values and carefully controlled. Third, protect freedom of expression and freedom of conscience. These are the very freedoms that Islamism seeks to destroy, and the very ones we need to fight for it. Fourth, defend women's rights without wavering. We have no right to allow the confinement of women, the veiling of children, or genital mutilation to flourish in our countries. Fifth, we must not be naive about the extraordinary expansion of the global halal market, an Islamist creation born 40 years ago in non-Muslim country that now serves the spread of fundamentalist norms. This is not a matter of diversification. Halal does not add, it replaces. Allow me this final remark as an anthropologist. Halal rests on a purity principle, pure and impure. licit and illicit. Purity systems are the very foundation of caste system. They separate, they hierarchies, they exclude. Our democracies are built on the opposite principle, equality between human beings. To generalize the purity principle in an egalitarian society is not to enrich it, but to transform it at its core. It is an anthropological shift, and it is precisely what brotherism seeks to achieve. Thank you very much.